Hello world, this is the Cadillac ATS high pressure fuel pump replacement. Now this one is the 2.5 4-cylinder model. Now we are in for a lot of work with this guy. We're gonna have to remove that PCV hose that goes from the air box all the way around. It's kind of funky how they designed it, but hey, get that out of the way. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect the ignition coils, get that harness as free as possible. So you are gonna have to disconnect a few things and then just simply move it over. We are gonna, as you can see, continue to disconnect these guys. Then the tubes where the hoses were connected to, those are gonna have to come off. You'll see it in the video soon enough. So this is a long video, so I will bring up certain things that you might want to be careful with. Other than that, just keep an eye out. I'm sure I cover most of everything that needs to get removed. Now with this guy, you do want to be a little gentle, as you don't want to break anything evap related, because it can get pretty annoying if you start having issues afterwards. This bracket can be a little annoying, but it's easily removable. There is a holder for that fuel line just to keep it connected. And you are going to need the fuel line disconnect tool, which you should be able to get at any auto parts store. So you are going to want to get the air box out of the way. These little red clips can get pretty annoying, so if you have a small pocket screwdriver, it definitely helps out, you know, getting those off of there, and we should get off. There you go. Now that we have this harness a bit loose, we're going to try to move it as much as we can. And like I said, we are going to disconnect these guys right here. Grab a 10mm, take that off, and do the other guy, and it should slip straight forward. It does have a seal around it, so if it were to get damaged for any reason, then I would recommend replacing it, but it shouldn't. So see, off with the bolt, pulls out, and done. You are going to want to get the VVT solenoid out of the way, because it can get in, well, it will get in the way of the harness if you don't remove it. So again, 10mm bolt, and pull that guy out. You can rock it back and forth. Here is the fuel disconnect. I don't remember what size it is, but it is that common, you know, GM disconnect, quick disconnect. Make sure to grab a rag so we can collect the fuel, or the small amount of fuel that comes out of here. As you can see, it drips a little bit, that's why I want that rag. Now this, I guess, part strut bar, I guess you could call it, this will not come out, but you can remove the nut and bolts that hold it down, and then it will be loose, so you at least have to do that. So see, it's loose, but it won't come out, but that's fine. We don't need it to come out as long as we have it loose. It makes enough space for the intake manifold to come up and out. Now we are going to have to remove this reservoir to open up some space, so disconnect that back line, get that out of the way. There will be something holding there, so move whatever you need to move around and get that guy up. There is a bolt holding one of the main coolant lines, so all you have to do is remove that, get it out of the way, Now as far as the intake manifold bolts, there is one 10mm bolt down here, and there is one clip-on vacuum line, so you'll have to remove that. Unfortunately, I couldn't show the vacuum line, but you'll just have to hunt for it, and it won't be super hard to find. So we have, if I remember correctly, five bolts up top and one bolt at the bottom. I think your hardest thing will be the bottom one. Just make sure you have the proper extensions. If you have a few shorty extensions, then you can put together something and, you know, get it out of there, but shouldn't be too bad. Now you don't have to disconnect the throttle body or remove it. You can if you want to. I elected not to in order to not have to deal with any gasket issue if, you know, any leaks would come up on there. I typically try to avoid removing as many things as possible, but you can do what you want. Now once you remove it, you'll have access to seeing, I guess you could see, the line that goes to the high pressure fuel pump. Now that connector at the lower right, that is actually your fuel pressure sensor. Now if you want to see this, I'll make a shorter video just detailing once you get the manifold off where it's at. Obviously you can see it right there, and I believe you need a 27mm or a 1 and something socket to get it out of there. But the most tedious thing is removing that intake manifold, so it does take a bit of time. You want to unscrew this line. Make sure to be gentle when removing and installing those threaded parts, because you don't want to get that you know, honked up. Now we are going to remove this cover. I don't know if it's a heat cover or something, but they just put it on there. We're going to get that out of the way, get access to those two 10mm bolts. So I loosened these guys up, and then I'm going to bring the cordless ratchet. They can be a little, that back one can be a little bit tricky, so if you have swivel extensions, those are handy. The swivel socket might not fit in there because it bulges up in the back, but depending on what you have, it can work. So once you've reached this point, then you're pretty much halfway done. Let's get that guy out of the way. Now, depending on where what position the crankshaft is. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention this line. There's another line down here that you want to loosen up too. It's hard to show you, but right there. You want to loosen that and disconnect it so you can get that out of the way. But as I was saying, depending on where you are or where the crankshaft is, what position it's in, there's a roller that actuates this pump, you know, driven by the camshaft. So if it's not in the right position, then you will have to rotate it in order to get that roller, you know, in its proper position so you can seat the pump correctly. And I will take the roller out just to show you how it looks. There's that bottom line. So here's that roller. Now, what drives this guy is the camshaft, and it works the same way as a lifter, essentially. Although the camshaft just rides it up and down and actuates that pump. Alright, so you want to put that lower line. You don't want to tighten it up, obviously. Leave it loose for now. Get that guy in there. But yeah, so if you feel some resistance when you're installing it, like I said, just make sure that roller is as far down as possible. And so you can adjust that by rotating the crankshaft. Luckily, the position that I was in, it was down all the way, so I didn't have to rotate it. I did rotate it to double check, you know, make sure it wasn't at a medium position, or, you know, on its higher position, and it worked out just fine. So it's not a hard task. Just make sure to double check on that part, because obviously when you take it off, it will come off. When installing it, if it's not in the right position, then you can have some issues, and I have had some guys mess up and cause some premature failures. It's funky. Although you would think that it's spring actuated, so it would be fine, but you just never know. Alright, so here, that's all I was doing, double checking the position on that, but anyways. Now I'm going to snug these guys up a little bit. I'm not going to tighten it with this guy, but snug it up, and then I'll go ahead and manually tighten it. Obviously be careful, as you don't want to break these guys. As there will, so since there will be some tension, you will want to go back and forth, but you can do it however you feel comfortable. Now we want to position that line, that fuel line, tighten up that connection. Say hello to my fingers. Alright, fingers, get out of the way. So this one goes from the lower part of the pump to the fuel rail. It's hard to see it. I guess just take my word for it, but you'll see it if you're doing this, obviously. Now we got the upper one. There is a small bracket that holds it up top, and it connects to the pump at the bottom. Other than that, yeah, that was the hardest part. Everything else is reassembly, so I'll just let you guys watch, and I'll sit back and do nothing. Anyways, if this was useful to you in any way, please make sure to hit that like button, as it helps me out in making this information helpful for other people that need it. And I appreciate any support. I like how there was a long gap right there. So I'm just going to show the install, and yeah, other than that, that's it. Thanks guys. Or thanks everyone, so we don't offend it. Yeah, we'll just go. Thanks.